Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and those of you still on the fence, we are back with another episode of Derailed, courtesy of Arcaicskidz. I'm, of course, your host, Arcaicskidz, and we have the super prude Martha Bueno back on the show. Hi, Martha.
Hello. Why do you keep calling me prude?
Because apparently you think that if someone gets toilet paper in their mouth by eating out their boyfriend's ass, that they're gross. I mean, that's just prude.
Yeah, that must be it. I cursed the moment where I typed that in.
I thought it was funny. I'm just saying.
That was the point.
So for anyone that doesn't know who you are, why don't you give them a quick bio on yourself?
Okay, so I am running for community council in Miami-Dade County. That is the seventh largest commission in Miami-Dade County. Oh my God, I'm having a major brain fart today. That's the seventh largest commission or county in the United States. So I'm running for Miami-Dade Commission, District 10. And besides that, I was the vice chair of the Libertarian Party of Miami-Dade for 4 years. I'm already elected to a community council position. And on top of that, I'm a mom, just normal human being who's tired of government being the way it is.
Nice. Right on. So you're running, and the position you're running for doesn't require. It's not you don't have to say if you're whatever party, right?
Right. It's a nonpartisan seat. Exactly.
Okay. So,
but I'm pretty sure I would be the only libertarian that ever ran, or
probably.
Sure.
So well, I just want to do this so that you can explain if you want to, or you can just say no. But you were tweeting out the other day that you're not getting enough support from LPTV. They're not promoting you guys, and we were just briefly discussing that because it's a Spanish show, that they don't like you on the main channel. Is that correct?
I don't know that they don't like us on there. It's just the way the LP is set up, the way their YouTube channel is set up, is all the content goes onto the same feed. So if you're signed up to receive notifications, you're going to get a notification for a Spanish language show. If you don't speak Spanish, it's annoying, is what I've been told. So, there's they don't have a way right now to separate the content so that we can have our own, notification to people who speak Spanish. I think that there's a lot of change going on in the LP at the moment. I know that they've certainly hired new people to work the communication side of the LP channel. So, I'm sure they'll eventually catch up. It's very frustrating on Zach and my end, doing the work and trying to get out there and trying to get the Hispanic community around us when we don't get any support really from the LP. Really, we did get a lot when Dan Fishman was in charge. He was great. He'd actually produce our show for us, stay up really late and produce our show for us. I mean, he's just an amazing person. And he gave us the opportunity to do it on the LP channel. So we were, it was one of those days where I got really frustrated. I was like, I wonder if they'll even miss us if we leave, which got a whole lot of attention. I was surprised.
Well, that's the intent. That's what you're looking for, is to get people to be like, no, don't leave. What are you doing? I think when you get into situations like that, what a lot of people don't understand is that the bigger an organization gets, the bigger a channel gets, anything like that, it's not like snapping your fingers and getting things accomplished. You know what I mean? Shit takes longer. There's more people involved, and it always becomes problematic, as we've learned from the federal government.
Yes. As organizations grow, it gets a little more problematic. I think the help that we were looking for was really in the things that, like, Zach and I, we aren't very technical. Well, Zach, I shouldn't speak for Zach. Zach is way more technical than I am. He's actually really amazing at stuff. I am not technical. And so there's a lot of stuff that I struggle with the podcast, with doing a show. Just getting content, getting a bumper on the show, getting logos, that type of stuff. Right. And so I was looking for a little more help from the LP, but a lot of people stepped up, I have to say. I love that about our party. We are we do what we say we intend to do, and that's a community, and that's help each other. And I got a lot of people reaching out and saying, hey, I can do this thing. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we don't worry about that here on Derailed. We just kind of shit show this thing together and see what sticks. So
that's kind of how we're doing this thing too, but I really like having it a little better.
You want to be all professional and do a great job, and I'm over here like, I don't give a damn. Let's just
there's
fun
some pressure. There's only one Hispanic, all Spanish language LP thing out there at the moment, and we're it. So there's a lot of pressure. We do get a lot of attention from other countries. So Zach and I both, we've gone on other people's podcasts as well as having them on our show. We've communicated with Mexico and Brazil and Peru and Argentina and Guatemala. Like we've communicated with other libertarian groups in the Hispanic community. And so it's kind of a lot of pressure to be the main, the way things happen in Latin America, everybody looks up to the United States. Good, bad, or indifferent, people look up to the United States. And so they're looking at us.
And I guess it makes sense. You want to set a good example and stuff, I could understand where you'd feel pressure. Unlike me, I'm a white guy libertarian. There's most of us like we all have a podcast or some form or whatever. So
are we real libertarians if we're not doing a podcast? I mean, come on.
Not at all. No, I disagree. I tell people
all of a sudden this quarantine has been like great for podcasting. Everybody just got on board.
I had someone DM me yesterday and they go, how is it that you get like these people, these big names on your show when you have such a tiny channel? And I'm like, well, one, I just ask them, and then they go, well, I've been thinking about starting a libertarian podcast. I just don't know. And I'm like, you're not a real libertarian then.
That might be it. You're just not a real libertarian, because if you are, you'd already have that podcast going. It doesn't matter if you only have, a few. It's actually amazing. The fact that we have one person watching our thing, let alone more than one, is just amazing to me. I still don't get why anyone wants to watch me talk about anything really, but thanks. I appreciate it.
I mean, I get it, but I think your mic's a little close to your speaker. I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Are
Can you move it just a little?
Yes, sir. Let's see if that works.
Testing. No.
Hello. Still getting it?
Yeah.
Let me lower the volume a little, see if that any better.
I don't know. Yeah, that's better. I'm still getting a little, but it's fine. I'll cut it out. So
I can
no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm the only one getting the feedback. It's not the audio, so it's not an issue. So last time, I wanted to ask you this last time, and I spaced it because that's what I do. In your area where you're running for commissioner, is it mostly Hispanic, or is it a mixed bag? What do you got going on over there?
It's a mixed bag, but I want to say the overwhelming majority are either Hispanic or Hispanic descent. It's Miami-Dade County, and I'm in an unincorporated area, but it encompasses this area called Fontainebleau, West Kendall, and Westchester, and they're all very Hispanic.
Okay.
Predominantly Republican, but very Hispanic.
Is the current commissioners or whatever, are they Hispanic people or are they white people?
The current commissioner for the area that I'm running in is a Hispanic man. He's been termed out this time. So we actually 2 terms ago, so I think it was 8 years ago, we finally put in term limits for Miami-Dade commissioners. And so this past election, we got in, I believe, like 5 new commissioners, maybe 6. So it's the first time since the commission has been formed that we have this many new commissioners on the dais. And so the current commissioner, Javier Soto, he originally ran for the seat in 1993. And I believe he's been continuously in this seat, except for a small moment where I think he was a senator, if I'm not mistaken. So he's pretty much been in the seat for the last, 20 plus years.
That's so confusing to me. I do not understand why people just keep electing people to the same job. You know what I mean? Because it's like they always come out, like all these politicians always got to be, we got all this work we have to do. And it's like, what the fuck have you been doing? Like, you've been in there for Nancy Pelosi's been in the Congress for like 8,000 fucking years. Like, she rode in there on a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And she's like, you got to send me back so I can finish the work. I'm like, you ain't doing shit, bitch. Like, what the fuck? Like,
well, it could be two things. Either for this local seat, it's either that they think he's been doing a good job, or that people just don't really pay attention to local politics.
I think they're lazy and they just check a box.
Right. And so if you see his name on the ballot, and you've heard his name before and you don't know the other names, you're like, well, I mean,
yeah,
this guy.
I'm gonna say something that's gonna piss off libertarians, and I hope they all attack me on Twitter so I can like laugh at their tears. I think there should be a test for you to have to vote.
I mean, why would that piss off libertarians?
I don't know, because a bunch of times they're whiny. But I think you should have to take a test, and that test would be pretty, based as far as like, okay, you got to actually tell me, you got to be able to answer a few questions about this particular person, not their policies, them. Like, I've got to know that you did your freaking homework, or otherwise, I'm sorry, morons aren't allowed to vote. Fuck off. Like,
I mean, I don't know that most Americans could even pass the citizenship test. So
I would almost guarantee 98% couldn't.
Right. It's funny because we're like, well, you need to assimilate into American culture if you want to live here, if you want to. But then once you're here, you don't actually have to. We don't require American citizens to take a test to know, basics. So.
No, but we should require them to take a test to vote. I'm just saying. Like, I feel like that's fair. I'll compromise with the Democrats. You don't need ID, but you have to pass the test.
I don't know how I feel about that. I'd say I just wish that our government wasn't the way it is currently. So if they didn't have that amount of power, I wouldn't care who voted. The problem with government is really the amount of power it has. So to deny people the right to vote based on something is the wrong angle, in my opinion. I'd just rather the government not have the power it does. I
agree with you, but the government would lose a whole bunch of power when all the morons weren't allowed to vote anymore because they couldn't pass a simple test.
I mean, if we actually educated people better, if we actually had
that would be
learning
nice.
Things in school like economics, just basic economics, maybe basic history,
civics.
Civics, absolutely. Oh my God, civics. I never took civics in school, so I struggle through learning.
See, I had to take civics in school, and it very much dismays me that you don't anymore.
I mean, I think we're about the same age-ish, and I never had to take it. So maybe, they just
could just be a state by state. I went to school in Utah. So, when I was in high school and stuff, my mom lived in Arizona, and a couple of my siblings lived with her, and they weren't required to take civics in Arizona, but it was an what the fuck's it called? Elective? Yeah. It was an elective in Arizona, but it wasn't a requirement. In Utah, it was required. Wow. Like, you had to take civics or you could not graduate.
I didn't have to take it. I took government. I do know that I took government, and I don't recall learning a whole lot. I remember we had to memorize the amendments, and it just, when you learn it like that, it didn't, click. It just wasn't something that I never had political ambitions. I never even thought that I could be an elected official or run for it was just something so foreign to me. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people feel that way. It's crazy that you can just go fill out a piece of paper and now all of a sudden, hey, I'm running for this office.
I think it's in a way a good thing. Like, I know a lot of people hate AOC, and she says some incredibly ridiculous shit all the time. But I find it very interesting that a bartender from the Bronx,
with a degree in economics.
Well, I mean, but that's not what did it for her. But she's now a congressperson. Now we go back to the ridiculous side of that is well, you can't really succeed. And I'm like, you were a fucking bartender and now you're a congresswoman. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, but a lot of people don't realize that we've come a long way. We had President Barack Obama for 8 years.
In the most racist country of ever.
Right. I mean, I think it's the same thing with feminism. I just did a video for Feminists for Liberty. And, it's like, how do you see feminism moving forward? And in my opinion, I see feminism in the United States. We've accomplished our objective. And,
we need to focus on other nations.
I'm sorry?
We need to focus on other nations.
That was exactly my video is listen, I guess because I'm focused on Latin America, I see these issues and I realize how lucky we are. I've never really missed an opportunity because I was a woman in this country. Sometimes some stuff sucks, but you choose it. I chose to have children. So therefore, when I separated from my kid's father, I had to start all over again because I chose to be a mom above all else. I chose to kind of have to start again. Those are decisions we make. Nobody forced me. I could have said, you know what? I don't want kids. And then I could have focused on my career. We women in this country have a choice. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Latin America, a lot of women don't, especially Central America. There's plenty of 9 and 10 and 11-year-old girls that are being married in Guatemala as we speak. Yeah. I mean, I was doing the research and it's 50% of girls by the age of 18 already have at least one child in Guatemala. So, I mean, and they get married and they just changed the laws a few years ago and it's as if nothing happened. The laws they can change it all you want. And if nobody's there to enforce it, it's just going to keep happening. Yeah. So we in America, we're lucky. If you're a woman in America, you're lucky. And now we're pushing it. We want to be better than men. And I don't get that. I have 3 little boys. Well, not so little anymore. I have 3 boys. And, I hate that what we're doing to men in this country. I hate what it's almost like it's bad to be male now. We emasculate men. We want them to do what, women do or be equals. And we're not equals. Even as babies. My son's nowhere near what my daughter, they're just different.
Yeah, I can attest to that very same thing. I have 2 daughters and a son, and the difference in your interactions with them and raising them is, and I'm not even slightly kidding here, it is night and day. Mm-hmm. It's that different in how you have to approach and handle any given situation. And the older that the daughters get, the fucking worse it becomes. It is a nightmare scenario. I understand when men are like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I have a degree in psychology, and it was the whole sociology versus psychology. I get it. Yes, we put little girls since they're born in bows and pink, and it's like you're going to be this, and you're here play with a doll, and I was very conscious as I was having my children to try and minimize that because I had learned about it and I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Obviously my parents and my ex-husband's parents are Hispanic. And so they had these very strong cultural beliefs. My youngest son once painted his fingernails. I went to get my nails done and they painted his nails and his grandmother was like, oh my God, what did you do? You're going to turn him gay. And I was like, that doesn't do anything. It's okay if he wants to paint his nails or he wants to, and even still they were so different. And so I really struggle with this whole.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I did a video one time and I think I put it on Facebook or something, which is a shithole place that no one should ever use. But I think I put it on Facebook and it was just my daughter, my oldest daughter. She was 6, I believe, 5 or 6, something like that. And I was teaching her to sew. And it was just a little. Yeah, it was just a little video of me teaching her how to sew. And I remember just people just berating me on the video in the comments about, oh yeah, you're just trying to turn her into just a housewife or whatever, teaching her how to sew. And I'm like, I need you to like use your brain and go back. It's not a video of her mother teaching her how to sew. It's a video of her father teaching her how to sew. And you're all fucking idiots. And I also taught my son how to sew.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I didn't teach any of my kids how to sew, so shame on me in that sense.
Well, I mean, to be fair, do you know how to sew?
I can put on a button.
Nice. I saw the other day that you love the term Latinx.
Oh God, please no. I hate that term. I really do. It's so offensive to me. I tell people, just if you want to insult me, just call me a spick, you know, whatever you want. There's so many words.
Please don't call her that. That's very rude.
Anything you want, just please don't call me Latinx. It is so offensive. Oh my
I am
God.
yet to talk to a single Latin, Hispanic, anyone that's like, no, yeah, that's the term that you should use. I do get these jackwings on Twitter that are like, no, I'm Latin, and that's what you should refer to me.
100% they don't speak Spanish.
Oh, I know. Well, you just go to their page, right? And then you go back and you go, you white as fuck. Shut up.
I mean, okay, wait a minute. We can't judge Hispanic on the color of their skin. I am Hispanic, and people look at me and they're like, there's no
okay, fair enough. But when you go on someone's page and they're Latin, right? And
Latinx.
Yeah, they're Latinx, and every single thing on their shit is all just a bunch of like blue check, fucking white liberal nonsense, critical race theory garbage, and it's all in English. I'm like, you're not allowed to speak anymore on this subject because you're fucking moron.
Well, the problem is people.
Why don't you tell me that you prefer that in Spanish, and then maybe I'll listen to you.
Right. The problem with the terminology, for those that don't know, it's X in Spanish isn't an ending for a word. That you won't find any words in Spanish with an X at the end. And X in Spanish isn't like in English X, it's X. So in order to convert Latinx into Spanish, you'd have to call it Latino X. So again, now you still have the O in
right.
Latino, and now it's X on top of that, which means absolutely nothing in Spanish. Like nothing. It you know. The only thing I can think of that has X at the end would be like the beer, those X. There's
those X.
Yeah,
it's a pretty decent beer, just saying.
It means nothing to us. And then in Spanish, everything has el, la, you know,
right.
Our doors. You call a door la puerta. Just because it's feminine, it's la puerta, it doesn't mean that we're looking at the door like, that door is hot, you know? Like,
that's a hot door.
Yeah,
actually, as a man, I can say that some wood is hotter than other wood.
You know, it's
take
just
that how you want.
Concept that somebody came up with to be like, hey, what can we do to name these people something? You know, so if we remove the gender, our language is gendered.
Yeah. And it's not just, I mean, they do it obviously to Latin people, but and they do it to Black people. They fucking do it to everyone. They do it to Native Americans, Indian, whatever. They come up with this term. They say, well, that term's offensive. Call them this. And it's like, how about you ask them what they prefer, which is the same nonsense horse shit you're pulling with all this other game.
They didn't ask us. I'm pretty sure they didn't ask us.
No, they just go, we'll just call them this. And
I'm losing friends over it too, which is kind of a...
Yeah, you're losing white friends. They don't matter.
I mean, listen, I'm
just kidding. It does matter. I don't like losing friends.
Yeah, it does matter. And especially because of the perception. So the friend that I did lose over this happens to be a gay man. And so, he was very upset with me because he's like, listen, that's a term that the gay community coined for the Hispanic community. And, accept it. Like, we want to feel included. And so my point was, hey, you're not including us. Like, I get that the gay community wants a word that, works for everybody, but that's not the word. So we can work together and create a different word, or, or we can now you can impose a word upon us. And now we're the ones that feel like shit.
Well, that's what they do though. I mean, I was actually just doing some research the other day for a project that I'm working on. And I was trying to figure out like, okay, there's a lot of words that we don't use anymore to describe, certain peoples. And I was like, okay, well, why did it change? How did it change? Like, what's the history of this change? And it is always the same. They never requested the change. This never was a thing that they did. You know what I mean? They weren't like, that's so fucking offensive. Like, you people don't care about it. No, just at some point, some shitbag that's not representative of those people decided the word or whatever is offensive and it can't be used anymore. And then they get all their nutbag buddies to back them up. And next thing you know, these people are like, why the fuck are you calling me Latinx? I don't even know what that means. Like, that's not a real word.
It is not. And, people in Latin America are like, they're calling you guys what? And it's like, no, not just us. They're calling you too.
Yeah, you too.
Like, what?
You too. Yeah. I got myself in some trouble yesterday on Twitter. I got blocked by like 17 people, all from one thing. Oh yeah, which I was like, that's a record. Someone posted something about guinea pigs are awesome, and then I just added and delicious. Ask Honduras. Oops. People got all pissed. Whoops. So
are they delicious? Have you tried one?
Yeah. I actually knew this guy. Well, I called him Hondo. Everyone else called him Peter, but his name was Pedro, and he was from Honduras. His parents had immigrated when he was 5, I believe. And I saw a documentary about guinea pigs being like a delicacy in Honduras or whatever. And so I asked him about it, and he goes, "Oh yeah, for sure. Like they're pretty good. We hunt them down in the wild because they're wild down there. You know what I mean?"
In Minnesota, there's one that's like this really big guinea pig. I forget the name of it. I think it's like chihuahua or something. I know that there's a really big one when I lived in Minnesota that people would eat. I personally, I guess I've just
I don't want to eat a rodent
in my life. Yeah, I've been very well fed. I don't like any of those weird.
I mean, I've been all over the world, so I've eaten very weird shit anyway. You know what I mean? Like, that term "when in Rome" kind of situation. I wasn't going to Honduras because they were having a civil war at that time. And the U.S. government wasn't paying me to go to shitholes anymore and intervene. But so I asked my buddy Hondo, and I'm like, what is this? And he goes, yeah, they really are. They're pretty delicious. And I'm like, all right, let's go to a pet store.
Okay, I'm pretty sure the ones in the United States pet stores are not similar to the ones that the ones in Minnesota, I remember them being big. I just personally didn't want to try it. But then again, I've been, I have tried weird things. I have eaten iguanas and horse.
Yeah, horse is nasty.
In Australia was pretty cool.
The what now?
Kangaroo in Australia?
Oh yeah. They're that's actually pretty delicious. It's like the easiest thing I could describe it to in America would be buffalo. Like bison.
I like buffalo too. Yeah. It's very similar. It's very dark red meat.
And it's there's not a lot of fat content. There's not much marbling in it. They're very muscular.
So beef in Australia is incredibly expensive. Like, you can't have steak the way you do in the United States because it's really expensive.
No. So speaking of, that's what we had for birthing person's day yesterday. Some really nice steak that I grilled up.
Birthing persons? Very nice. Happy birthing person's day to everybody.
That's another one of those things that I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? You know what I mean? They're taking your womanhood away from you. Yeah, but they're taking your womanhood away from you when they say dumb shit.
I think that being a mother is so much more than giving birth. And we don't celebrate mothers because they birthed people. We celebrate mothers because they raised people.
Yeah.
So I'm a mother, whether I gave birth or not, because that was the easiest fucking part about being a mom. Seriously.
Yeah. I did this funny thing. This nonsense skit once while I was like 26 or whatever. And I went to Sweden because my mother lives in Sweden now. Well, she has for like 20 years or something. But anyway, I went to Sweden to see her. And it was over my birthday, right? And so on my birthday, I bought a cake and I gave it to her.
Aww.
And she was like, but why are you giving me a cake? And I'm like, well, I mean, literally my job was like, come out of the tunnel. You're the one that did all the work. I feel like we're celebrating these birthday things wrong.
I agree. My kids and I were talking about that yesterday of, Mother's Day. And it was like, Mom, for birthdays, it's kind of weird. We should be giving you things
Yes,
for doing
exactly.
the work on your birthday. It's like, yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, if my
All you
son
did
is
was show
watching
up.
this, daddy needs a new pair of boots. Just saying. My son actually just turned 16 in March. So, you know, I feel like I'm getting fucking old now. Like,
I feel that way too. I have a
but he did
20-year-old.
he did
makes
tell me,
old.
I finally convinced him, because he was like, I mean, you know, I guess I'll join the Marine Corps. And I'm like, no, you fucking won't. Like, I don't do it, kid. Like, I'm telling you, there are plenty of ways that you can be of service. That's not the one you should pick now. Like, you know what I mean? They're too fucking psychotic anymore. And yeah, we have a bunch of damn bloodthirsty war criminals running this bitch, and I don't want you getting shipped off to God knows where this time. You know what I mean?
I mean, we've got 7 wars ongoing, so
yeah.
Sky's
Well,
the limit. You can go anywhere.
my older brother, my younger brother, and myself have all told him now, like, break the family cycle. Like, you know, you don't have to, just because we've all been in the service for 200 years, you can be the one that breaks that shit. And then my older brother has an 18-year-old son, and he was like, I want you to take me, go talk to the Army recruiter. And my older brother was like, get fucking bent. I'm not doing that. Like, if you do it, okay, but I'm telling you, don't do it. Like, it's retarded, and I don't support the decision. And I'm like, never thought I'd be in that position when I was younger. You know what I mean?
I think it's great though that so many people, like especially you that have been there, you know, you and your brothers that have been put in that position. I think we need more people to speak up. I think there's so many amazing stories that service members have that we're not hearing about. And I know that yes, some people do know these stories, but the average American, either we didn't pay attention or we're just, I don't know, it's not front and center, because when you start paying attention, it's absolutely horrific what we're doing. And we've been doing. I mean, I just recently posted on my Twitter a few days ago, like, when was a time that you actually believe the government? And everybody's like, well, elementary school or, you know, middle school. It's like, we don't believe the government. We don't believe a word they say. We know they're lying to us. We know they, you know, put laws in place that have nothing to do with our benefit. It's just whoever paid the high. And so why do we continue to follow them? It is like we are one big herd that's moving in that direction, and we just can't stop it. We can't just get a group of people together to be like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not paying my taxes. Why would I pay to kill people on the other side of the world? Why do we keep doing this? We know it's bullshit. Why?
Well, the money printer just go burr anyway. So taxes, like, at this point, all the government's really proved is there is no fucking reason to pay taxes, because they're just going to print us into you know, the black hole no matter what anyway. Right. I mean, they're literally already talking about spending like another $6 trillion. They're talking about another stimulus bill. And I'm like, oh, Jesus, fuck you people do not understand. I'm going to say this.
They do. Well, no, they know exactly what they're doing.
They know what they're doing. I'm saying the people that are like, yeah, do that, don't understand what's happening. They don't understand the economic impact that it's going to take place. I'm going to say this. This is not financial advice. If you are in a position to refinance your house for a very, very low rate and you have a lot of equity, it would not be the dumbest thing in the world for you to get that equity out of that home right now, because inflation has one factor that can be positive for you, and that's your debt's fucking cheaper.
Yeah.
So...
But I mean, anybody who, you know, when I first bought the home that I live in, you know, I looked at that mortgage payment. I was like, whew, man, that is so much money. And now it's like, you know, almost 20 years later, I'm like, man, it wasn't that bad, you know, because that's what happens. You know, inflation happens. And, you know, you look back at like people who bought their houses in the 70s that were like struggling to pay $40,000, you know, dollars for a home. Now that house is worth $300,000. They're like, that was cheap.
Now they're struggling to pay property taxes for their home.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And they continue to raise our property taxes. We've been home.
Again, take a test. You have to understand, what is this shit for? You know what I mean? Where's the money going? Stop raising my fucking taxes.
But here's the problem. If we all took a test and we were all knowledgeable, how do we stop it? Because at the end of the day, the problem isn't that people don't know that stuff is going on. There's plenty of people talking about the issues.
Right.
How do we stop it? How do we go from, hey, this sucks? Obviously, the people that we're electing just, don't know what to do.
Balkanization, secession, bust this shit up. That, and maybe honestly the only real way. Like I don't
feel like blockchain technology is a solution. I think that
that is the same form of balkanization. It's busting people apart. It's taken that centralized system away from them. So people are like, well, you fucking do whatever you want. I don't care because I don't even play in your economy. I don't do your nonsense.
Exactly.
So
I think we need to have a set of rules that we all agree to, and you opt into it. And then you're like, this other one, I don't want that one. I want this new one that I've chosen for myself.
Contract law. Contract law is the easiest thing to take power away from people that want power, is just contract law. Follow property rights and contract law, and you basically don't need government anymore. You know what I mean?
Do we really need government to interfere on our behalf for how we trade with other countries at this point? I mean, I can call up a factory in China with the internet and be like, hey, can you ship me this thing? Like, we don't need some government power in place to be able to do these things for us. I think we've evolved to a point where maybe it made sense back when we didn't have access to foreign countries and negotiating directly. But at this point.
Yeah, the internet completely changed the game on that. Yeah, I can go on. I can look at a factory in Venezuela. I can look at it. Well, okay, maybe not. Venezuela is probably the wrong one to use right now, but used to. But you can look in China, you can look in Japan, you can look in India, you can look in South Korea, and you can compare the product, capability that they have, and just go, okay, well, I want this many, I'll pay you this many dollars. They agree to it, and then they make and ship the product to you. I don't need fucking government.
You don't. And you don't need government. And one of the fun things now that you mentioned Japan is this is how our government screws us over. If you go to any coin laundry in the United States, there's washers and there's dryers. Why don't we have Japanese washer dryers here in the United States?
It just does the whole job, man.
Does the whole thing. Oh my God. I had to use a coin laundry in Japan. It took me a while to figure it out. Because I'm like, where's the dryer?
Me too. I was like, what do I just fucking pack this shit out of here dry and hope it doesn't mildew? I don't know what the fuck's that, or wet.
Yeah, no, and it even puts the soap in for you. You put in your coins and it does the whole thing. The only thing it doesn't do is fold it for you. I'm like, why can't we have these things in the US? Oh yeah, that's right, because we have a government that's like, nah, you can't have that.
Yeah, exactly.
That technology is
now,
cool.
Also, Japan has to be very space saving. Like, I don't know that most people know this. I assume that you do know it. There is something that in Japan, this is a legit job, and it's called I don't remember the Japanese term, but anyway, basically this person's job is to shove people into the train.
Oh yeah. Come in. That's so much fun to watch in the morning.
If they're like, if that door won't close, their entire job is like, come on, you'll fit. and the door closes, and that's their job. And I'm like,
and the funny thing is I watched this and I was like, do I really want to get on that train? 2 minutes later, a new train will be there. Mm-hmm. Going in the same direction, taking you to the same destination. Like, just wait. I mean, do I really want to?
But if too many people thought that, everyone's just standing there waiting. We have not even talked about any of the shit that I threatened you with. Damn it.
All right, let's talk about sex workers. I mean,
all right. Well, she brought it up. Now, yeah, you have a stance on sex work that would make most Republicans' heads explode, and Democrats, I don't know actually how they would handle it. Anyway, what's your thoughts?
My thoughts are, why the hell is the government standing in the way? If I can give it away for free, why can't I charge for it? And I'm not saying me. I'm not a sex worker. I don't want those DMs, please. No, thank you. I'm just saying.
Politician, sex worker. No, just kidding.
I mean, it kind of is the same thing. Same concept, because if
selling
you're a politician,
yourself,
you got to go around asking people for money, and they expect something in return for that money. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you might not be that far off.
Yeah, it's basically the same job.
I'm screwing somebody over if I take money from people. You know, maybe just politicians don't like the competition.
Yeah. Do you know when sex work? Okay, because I mean, obviously, the majority of people, including younger people now, have seen either TV shows or movies or whatever, where every town had a brothel, right?
Right.
You had your bar, you had a brothel. There were ladies of the night. You could give them, whatever. And
the oldest profession in the world.
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's the only thing that they don't know is of the two oldest professions is which one came first, the soldier or the prostitute.
I'm going to say the prostitute.
I would think so. But the argument was that when soldiers came around and started getting paid, they had guaranteed money, and so these ladies were like, "Oh, I'm going to get that money."
Right.
So that's where they're like, "Well, we don't know, but we do know that they basically evolved at the same time."
I'm going to say that plenty of women, even if you're not exchanging money for sex, you're still exchanging something.
Right.
How many women just go out on a date with you and, don't go to dinner, don't just straight to bed? I mean,
I don't know how many do that. I do know that there is like an actual trend that's like, what was it? I saw it on Twitter and it was like trending at one point that it said "take dick for dinner" or something like that.
Wow.
And it was like, yeah, but it was basically like these ladies that were discussing that, hey, if you can't afford to go to this extremely fancy restaurant, I'm sure there's a guy that'll take you, but you gotta pay your way.
Pay that at the end of the night. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. It's like, there's a joke made. I think Bridget Fetisi makes the joke that if he buys you lobster, it's I don't remember the comedian, but this female comedian. It's like if you order lobster, just know you taking the dick. Like that's the rule, And I'm like, Eliza, some shit. I'll think of it anyway.
I don't want to sound that way. I think that not just because you go on a date with somebody and you have dinner doesn't mean that you have to put out.
No. Yeah. You don't have to do that.
You're right. Yeah, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that there's plenty of women who see this transactionally, and if you can give it away again for free or in exchange for a lobster, why are you going to jail at the end of the night? And then you have this whole other concept is now we have OnlyFans and you have sugar babies.
Which is the same shit.
Yeah, and it's legal because they can't stop it. Technology keeps proving how inept government is. Right. Then comes the technology and there's that government solution going by the wayside. How can they stop people who are communicating on the internet and saying, hey, in the case of sugar babies or sugar daddies or sugar mamas or whatever, you can offer somebody to be your girlfriend or boyfriend a certain amount of money and you have the girlfriend experience. And how are they going to stop it? It's not a Jane Doe on the street corner picking up a guy,
Well, even if it was, and this is one of the things that, so are you familiar with Eliza Blue?
No.
Okay, she was sex trafficked for many years. She finally escaped. She's on Twitter. I actually suggest that everyone follow her because she is in a fucking war with Twitter about their child porn problem.
Really?
Oh yeah, and it's bad there.
What is her Twitter handle? Do you know?
I think it's just Eliza Blue. I'm not sure. I will send it to you. I'll send it to you. But she has been asked about the sex work argument, and she makes to a point the same argument that Republicans have made for a very long time, which is that legalizing it won't protect others, and maybe it'll make it easier for them to get trafficked or whatever. And I'm like, but okay, the countries that have legalized it and the state like Nevada, right? Not Clark County, don't go to Vegas. I mean, you can probably find one, but it's not legal there. You will still go to jail. But the point is that they literally have seen an opposite happen, where this is not, it's not proving their argument that, it actually, just like drug decriminalization, as far as marijuana has gone, has harmed the cartels of Mexico to the point that now they're like, oh, well, we're just going to sell avocados and that's real, I'm not making that up, because they don't care what they're selling, they just want to make money.
Right.
You know,
or they're going to traffic now harder drugs because, you know, marijuana is no longer their drug that they can, you know, that everybody wants. So now they're going to go with cocaine and heroin and all the other stuff because, well,
right. And they're also trafficking more people.
Right. Absolutely.
And so,
children.
So what are do you believe that legalizing sex work, first of all, if you are a Democrat and you pull that my body, my choice nonsense, and then you're against legalized sex work, you're a fucking hypocrite. But that said, what are your thoughts as far as, do you actually believe that decriminalization of that particular, you know, probably the oldest profession ever, would actually help that situation?
I know it would help that situation. I think we need to decriminalize everything. Everything that, you know, the United States government has said is they're doing it for our benefit has turned out to be the opposite. When you look at what we've done, not only with, you know, obviously we're not going after sex workers as hard as we're going against the drug war. But when you look at everything the United States government's like, we're going to make this illegal for your benefit. It turns out that it's the opposite. We had prohibition in this country, which created gangs. People died from the alcohol that was being made terribly. How many people really die right now? You know, when you go
to but to be fair, the U.S. government actually poisoned a bunch of alcohol and sold it on purpose to kill people.
I'm pretty sure the United States government has done the same thing with drugs too. So, I mean, removing how evil the United States government is at the end of the day, what exactly have they accomplished? Are they ever going to be able to eliminate prostitution? No. And so what are they doing? They're making it easier for people, for pimps, to have a 14, 15, 16-year-old girl amongst their girls or whatever.
Their harem.
Just checking their ID. There's nobody there to, you know, it's so much harder for a kid nowadays to go buy alcohol than it is for them to go buy, I don't know, name it. Weed
heroin. Heroin.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if you know a dealer that used to sell marijuana, or it still sells marijuana, because in a state like mine in Florida, we still don't have it legal. Right. If you're a child, you have to go to two different doctors to be able to get a medical marijuana card. So it's just exponentially more expensive. You can still get it on the black market. So everything the United States government does in that aspect just makes it worse. And I just think that if we decriminalize everything across the board, we'll see it improve.
I agree with that statement. I will say this right quick. We shouldn't call it the black market because that's racist. We should call it the free market.
Oh man.
So I agree with you on the decriminalization. More is better. For sure. Maybe don't decriminalize murder. Just, you know.
The state.
Well, I mean, to a point, mutual combat, I think, is fine.
I think anything that the state can do, we should be able to do. And I don't think murder is one of those things that I want the state doing. So I'm actually.
But they do it.
Of course they do it. Of course they do it. Whether it's war or they decide to kill somebody. I mean, I now can't find the case, but I read something the other day about somebody who the DNA test that was on death row, the DNA test came back that it definitely was not that person. And they
Tennessee, and they killed him 4 years ago.
Right.
And then they're like, oops, wrong guy. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean, oops?
Yep.
It's not a oops.
Which is why I think the United States government should never be able to kill anyone. And there's certain people that I think should be killed. There's certain people that I'm like, yeah, I'd be happy with them going away. But it's so much more expensive for the United States government to actually kill somebody than to keep them in jail for the rest of their lives.
I kind of feel like you could make an argument from a libertarian standpoint of the U.S. government, no state actor, no state government or whatever should have the ability to kill. But if someone like, you know, say a child raper got possibly put in a wood chipper, you could make the argument that it was self-defense of another, you know, and be like, oh, and then the government goes, well, you're kind of right. It's fine. You know what I mean?
I think if somebody was caught in the act of raping a child, that might be different. I absolutely, I mean, as a parent, as somebody who, you know, has gone through stuff in life, yeah, I could agree with that. I could see some people going into wood chippers.
Yeah.
You know, some people are just not going to miss them that much. But as far as the United States government being the person to make that decision, I hate it. I think that they've proven their incompetence or just nefarious actions. And I think we need to stop it. We need to all stand up and stop allowing the U.S. to start to kill people, especially at war.
Yes.
What we do in war is just so freaking horrible.
Trust me, I know. One of the things that I keep seeing, and it's fucking driving me bonkers, is this nonsense that, the January 6th insurrection, it was the worst thing that's happened since 9/11. And I'm like, I'm going to fucking, I can't say what I was going to say because that's absolutely ridiculous.
Of course.
Millions of people are dead because of that day on 9/11, September. Millions of people around the world are dead. Millions more will probably be dead because of that day.
I don't think it's because
this is not the same thing. This is not even fucking close to the same thing.
It wasn't even that day. That day is just the excuse we use to justify the shit we've been doing around the world.
That's what I'm saying, but it all ties back. They use that day as the excuse.
Right.
And so it's like, you cannot in good faith say, well, this is just as bad. The fuck you. You know what I mean? That one day we lost what? Almost 4,000 people.
Yeah. And it was like anybody who watched that live, I think it changed your life forever to watch people jumping from those buildings.
I watched it live and it was.
So did I. I watched it live and I couldn't, it was just, and we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know where else it was going to go. I mean, it was just, it was a feeling of impotence. And then to be told that they hate us for our freedoms is just such an insult. It is such an insult. Who believes this? This is the reason I became a libertarian, is because I was watching that and going, what?
What the fuck are you talking about?
Right. No, they don't hate us for our freedoms. They hate us because we love to impose dictators on them. Yeah. Regime change. We go to war with people. We literally arm the Taliban and then we fight them. I mean, we're like, oh my God, it's such a disaster.
Dave Smith is not wrong when he says, if you want to know who America's next enemy is, look at who we're funding now. That's fucking 100%. Since World War I, that's all you have to do. And you're like, oh shit, we're going to be fighting them in like, a couple of years. Like it's 100% every time.
To the fight with China, that's for sure.
No, and you shouldn't be, because that shit's going to be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, it is. And so I'm already against.
Unfortunately, I think it might be avoidable. It might be, but the only way it's avoidable is to get, I'm maybe upset some libertarians here too. These private businesses need to be forced the fuck out of China. That's it. Because these people are over there like, just, I got to get those dollars, or yen or whatever the fuck they're called. I don't know. But my point being is that these are American companies, corporations that are putting China first. And I don't give a shit about this libertarian argument. They're private businesses. The fuck they are. They get government bailouts every time they get in jeopardy. That's not a private fucking company, right?
But then we're just going over the whole same points that, libertarians argue about, which is A, the government shouldn't be picking winners and losers. And B, it's not even the U.S. Corporations that are giving China money. If the United States just stopped.
No, China's giving them money.
Sure.
Which is why they're like, oh yeah, whatever China wants. Like, we'll put the helmet back on the black dude for the movie because China's racist as fuck and doesn't want a black person on the poster.
Well, but then I think it's our duty as Americans who realize what's going on to not support Disney or whatever, corporation bends to their.
Oh, I don't. I canceled Disney Plus and fucking all that because fuck you. I don't have no time for that nonsense.
We only care so much. We only care until it affects our iPhone. Let's be honest. I mean, Americans.
I don't have an iPhone.
Huh?
I don't have an iPhone. I got a cheap little $100 phone that I'm sure was built by a slave, but it didn't cost me $1,000.
You know what? At least something that is in that phone was mined by slaves for sure.
Oh yeah, guaranteed, 100%.
Yeah.
There's no way around that.
So I just think that we need to stop allowing the government to get involved with these issues. China's going out there and giving a lot of people a lot of money, and they're doing it for a purpose. And while we are meddling, it's just going to keep getting worse. I don't know that there's a solution to this other than stop meddling.
Well, I mean, the easiest solution would probably just be like you said earlier, is take a shit ton of power away from the U.S. government, because in that regard, then people would go to the corporations and say, you need to knock the fuck off. And they would, because government can't protect them. You know what I mean? They're not going to protect them from the nonsense. Okay, so we talked about sex work, and I agree with you on that. That, by the way, as Ron Paul used to say, legalization of drugs does not mean people are going to start doing it. So just because prostitution would be legal, which it should be,
hopefully. Not legalized.
Right. Decriminalized. It, does not mean that your husband's going to run out and try to get a hooker. Like, if he's that kind of guy, that's what he's going to do in the fucking first place, and it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So it's a ridiculous argument, and all the repubs need to shut the fuck up when it comes to that.
Same thing with heroin and decriminalization of drugs. Just because,
absolutely, and that's where we're going now. You support decriminalization of all narcotics.
Yeah.
So
across the board, just
no barrier at all. Just whatever it is, fentanyl, doesn't matter. Like, take it.
I mean, who's really taking fentanyl? The only reason you're using,
I don't think most people are doing it on purpose.
No, nobody's doing it on purpose. The reason it's in your drugs is because you don't know what's in your drugs. And why is that? Oh, yeah, because it's illegal. I mean, when was the last time you bought Tylenol with fentanyl in it? You don't. Because the makers of Tylenol don't particularly enjoy going to jail. But you can buy all sorts of weird drugs. I mean, I live in Miami. We have the Ultra Music Festival every year, and it's 3 days and blah, blah, blah. And the biggest problem with Ultra every year is that kids die because of the drugs that they were taking. Mm-hmm. Because they thought they were taking Molly or whatever, and it ended up being speed. Okay, well, that's kind of a problem for me. If you have a 20-something-year-old, dying at a concert venue because they took drugs that were laced with other things, that's a problem. If they walked into CVS and just bought
MDMA or whatever,
I mean,
they know it was safe.
Problem with people having a good time. Legalize happiness.
Yeah, that is the best way. Oh shit, I'm hashtagging the fuck out of that later. Legalize
There's a
happiness.
reason why drugs are good. And I'm not listen, I have 4 kids. Again, this is the conversation that I have with them. When I talk to them about drugs, it's never about, hey, don't do drugs because they feel terrible. It's like, you don't want to do drugs because, it might ruin
your life. You're going to like it.
No, I mean, you probably will. Let's be honest. There's a reason people do it, and it's because it feels good. But it's usually because they have other issues and they're looking for an escape. It's the same thing with alcohol. How many alcoholics do you know have a fantastic life and everything's going dandy, and then they just became alcoholics? The reality is they're having a hard time. They need something.
That doesn't happen.
No, you need something to get you through. Life is hard. Life is really hard sometimes, and you need a crutch, and you'll choose what you can get. And I say this often. I have somebody very close in my life, a family member who was addicted to meth, who is a meth addict, because you never get over it because it's so hard to kick. And, it wasn't like he just woke up one day and was like, you know what? That meth sounds like a good idea. He had issues, and it was a slow roll into an addiction. And the reason he ended up on meth is because cocaine got really expensive. For many years, he was a functioning cocaine addict. And was able to function. And then meth happened because it was cheaper. And here we are, can't kick that habit, can't get rid of it. It is always the case that as a drug becomes harder to get, something worse comes about.
Right. And it's also important for people to understand that government regulation has actually caused more meth and heroin addictions than fucking anything. And it's because their little war on drugs has led to the point that people, they hurt their back or whatever happens, and they get a narcotic that's pharmaceutical from a medical professional. And then these dumb shit laws step in and go, well, you're only allowed to give them this many. they're addicted. They can't get any more, can't get that prescription refilled under the consultation of a medical professional. So what do? They go look to get that pain taken away from them. And what happens? Heroin, meth, that's what happens. And then these people wind up in a fucking alley sucking dick for money.
And they can't, there's nowhere to go from there. As again, close family member in this situation, we didn't have anywhere to put him because you know what? Malibu, promises in Malibu is like 60 grand a month. Like there's no real good place for somebody who doesn't have the funds to send somebody who, who needs the help. It's either get arrested and then you go through the system, or have a lot of money and then you can be like the celebrities that go into a rehab and it's nice. Rehabs are really expensive. We were lucky we were able to find one. I think this was like 10 years ago almost now. And it was at $17,000 a month to be able to have them in there. So, we don't have a system. We don't have an actual safety net for these people, which is what this whole process does. If you are addicted, where do you go? How do you get the help you need? Yeah. We have a really cruel system that hurts people that are hurting the most. Instead of being like, hey, let's find a solution that actually works. We're like, nah, you're just going to go to jail and we're really going to hurt you. You like drugs? It's a shame. We're going to throw you in jail. We're going to give you a criminal record so you can never get another job, even when you kick it, and we're going to ruin your life so that you don't ruin your life yourself. It's like, what are we doing? And it costs us billions of dollars in the United States.
You know where there's a lot of money that could be used for treatment?
In the war on drugs?
Over militarized police, the war on drugs, court systems in general, because they're going to need a lot less fucking funding to bring charges against people. There's a lot of, so when people say, well, where are you supposed to get the money from? I'm like, take it the fuck away from the enforcers, moron. This isn't difficult.
And think how much better a police officer's job is going to be if they don't have to stop people because they smelled weed. If they don't have to stop people because possibly you're on drugs, maybe they can just do their job and stop you over things that actually matter, like robberies and murders and rapes and things that we actually want them to do. I don't care if somebody wants to do meth in their own home. I do care. I would hope that person has the ability to
seeks treatment.
And seek treatment. But as far as like going and meddle and knocking down their doors and we've killed so many people like Breonna Taylor because she possibly could be connected with some drug dealer. I mean, are you kidding me?
Well, and it's important to understand in that particular circumstance too, is that a lot of people say, well, he was a drug dealer. Okay, first of all, that's no reason to kill anyone.
Innocent until proven guilty?
Exactly. Like, so you can't just say that. And Republicans do this, and it infuriates me. They're like, oh, well, look at his rap sheet. And I'm like, I don't give a shit about his rap sheet. All of these arrests, in my opinion, are fucking stupid. First and foremost, he sold something to someone that wanted that something.
Yeah.
Blow me when it comes to this situation. Like, that's just called commerce in my world. But this woman got killed because this man defended his private property from invaders. That's what happened, right?
They didn't even know who it was. I mean,
then I can prove it because the city dropped all the charges against him, who did not die in this, thankfully, but he did not die. And they charged him with all this nonsense because he shot a cop and blah, 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 blah.
Well, actually, it was
and they dropped all the fucking charges.
It was two guys. So it was her ex-boyfriend, the one that was accused. Her current boyfriend is the one that shot. So they had done a raid at the same time, just slightly before, on the ex-boyfriend's house. But that one was carried out better. So the guy that they were looking for was already in custody, had a raid on his home.
And then they still murdered Breonna Taylor.
And they still murdered her. It's so offensive because on top of everything else, on top of all of the stuff we've already said about drugs, that's not the real problem. On top of everything else, they were so incompetent that one side didn't talk to the other and decide, we're going to go raid his house. Oh, by the way, we got him. Now you don't need to go over there to go get him over there.
We have him in custody. No, we can't make that call.
No.
Now a woman's dead because these people can't use a fucking radio.
Or whatever it is. I mean, the levels of incompetence, when you realize how bad the United States government is at so many things, and people are like, oh, we should have the government take care of that.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Man.
What was the gentleman's name in I think it was Chandler, or was it Glendale? Whatever. It was in Arizona, where it's a meme and they're always like, just comply and you won't die. And then it's a guy and he's like crawling on the ground and they shoot him in the back.
Oh my God, yes. What is his name? In the hotel room, yes.
Yeah, and it's like, oh well, he's white, he doesn't matter. And it's like, no, this all matters, right?
It does. And
like Maj Tour brings him up all the time.
His grand crime is he was on the 5th floor of like one of these hotels, like a Comfort Inn or La Quinta or something. He was on the 5th floor, which everyone that I've stayed at, the window doesn't even open. I'm not sure how real the claim was, but apparently he was showing off some gun of some kind, which was supposed to be a I don't know, an airsoft or something. And they said that he pointed it out the window. Again, 5th floor of a La Quinta. I'm not sure that those windows
don't open unless they have balconies, right. First and foremost. And I know that. I am sure about that as someone that has worked in building shit like that. Because of safety and insurance reasons, those windows don't open at all. Not to mention, the 5th floor is 50. What is it? It's 59.9 feet up.
And he didn't shoot anybody.
No one would see that. If he was just in the window with the gun, no one would see that.
Somebody called it into police. The video that you can see of his death was after somebody called it in that he was pointing a gun out the window. So the way they treated him, first and foremost, so what if I'm at a hotel and somebody calls in, they just don't like me and they're like, hey, that chick over there, yeah, she's got a gun. Like, is this how we're going to treat people? Because somebody else called in.
Well, this is how we are treating people.
And that is insane to me. I think that, police officers have a real tough time doing a job sometimes, but this wasn't the way to handle that call. And
I think we need to get rid of cops.
I mean, I'm not going to make that argument. I think that there's a time and a place for everything. I think that police officers, we do need them. We just need them to not be chasing you down because you're going 10 miles over the speed limit or because you're doing some substance in your house that people don't agree with. I think
police have been put in a position, Martha, where they're no longer police that you see on, the Andy Griffith show. These people are Praetorian Guard. Yeah. Their job is tax collection and to keep population in control from the elitist view. I think a lot of police departments are very short-staffed now, where a lot of cops have left because they're like, I'm not doing this shit. Fuck you. I'm out. You know what I mean? The ones that do
that
stay.
Makes my heart happy. I think there's nothing better than police officers saying, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Because then it would force politicians to actually write laws that somebody wants to enforce. I mean, right now we have all these stupid laws. Sodomy is still a law in a lot of the United States. Like, why?
Gay marriage is legal, but you're not allowed to have sex.
Yeah, like, come on. Like, we need to stop with all these ridiculous laws. If it doesn't affect somebody else, just stop. Just
don't hurt me and don't take my stuff.
Yeah.
And then I don't care.
So many laws that most people can't. I'm sure that most people break more than one law a day and they don't even know it. They have no idea.
On purpose, just because I think it's funny. But, eventually that'll be my downfall. I'm okay with that. Okay.
What's going to be your downfall? Getting arrested for something or?
Oh, I'm sure I'll do something and they'll be like, and that's the thing. Now you're going to the fucking pen. And I'm like, whatever.
I'm sure I'll post something on Twitter that'll get me banned or canceled or something, I'm just waiting for that moment.
I mean, I don't know. I got banned from Twitter once and I just came back with a VPN and a new email. So
I haven't gotten there. I don't know.
I know you always escape the censorship.
I always do. I might not be a real libertarian then.
Maybe not.
I must work on this.
No, I mean, porn stash, Reed Coverdale seems to escape it too. So there's that. I figured I better shout him out on this show because he shouted me out last night. So everyone go follow porn stash, Reed Coverdale, hashtag porn stash when you follow him, just because I think it'll be fucking hilarious. All right, so explain to the people why they should not be allowed to own nuclear weapons.
I don't think anybody should have. I think no country should have nuclear weapons. I think, it's one of those things that keeps me up at night. We have a shit ton in this country. So does Russia. So do a lot of countries. Let's denuclearize the world. But if the government can have it, I guess.
Wait. You just mean weapons, right? Not denuclearize.
Yeah, just the weapons. I'm sorry. Yes, I would very much love to be able to have a nuclear power plant. In every city in America providing power. I mean the bad ones, the ones that are just here to
cause a murder box situation.
Yeah. I mean, do we really want people just to be some guy that got elected to seat to just be able to drop a bomb and kill?
You mean like Old in Chief?
I'm sorry?
Old in Chief, who doesn't even know where the fuck he is half the time, is like, yeah, I got power over one of the most dangerous weapons ever. I mean, literally the most dangerous weapon of ever.
I don't know if it's just because the history of it, but I've stood in both Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and I have to say that the feeling of being there was just something that I can't describe. It's just, I can't believe that this is something we did. And then, you go to the museum and you see the artifacts and you see people's fingernails that they picked up off the ground. Mm-hmm. Children that were out playing with their tricycle that just, I don't know. It's so heartbreaking. The reality of it, because we're here in the United States, we're like, yeah, drop that nuclear bomb. Who cares? And then you go there and you see the devastation we caused.
To this day, you can see it.
You can see it. Oh, yeah. There's still a building standing there in the park in Peace Memorial Park.
That managed somehow not to be completely obliterated.
It's falling apart. Don't get me wrong. It won't be much longer. It's falling apart. They need to restore it to leave it the way. I mean, I think it needs to stand because it needs to remind the world of.
Well, if I remember right, I think they are. I think they did finally pass something there where they were like, they're going to spray it with some kind of weird shit or whatever that's supposed to basically crucify it in a way.
I mean, it would be great.
Or not crucify, mummyize it so that it'll stand.
Right now they have like pieces that are falling apart and they put, gates around it and they put wood, chunks of wood like holding the structure up because it's falling apart. I mean, what can you expect? But it's such an amazing place to be. And to see and to realize, the power that these weapons have. And again, the argument is always made when we discuss this is that had to have happened in order to end the war. Nagasaki should have never have happened. Hiroshima, we can argue. I think Nagasaki is one of those things where there should never have been a Nagasaki ever.
We can't actually argue Hiroshima anyway. So when things are classified, they're classified for it's called term classification. So you have term 1, term 2, term 3, right? And that classification is going to dictate how long a thing is classified for. Now that thing can get reclassified as its term comes, right? Congress votes and they say, okay, we're going to keep this classified or we're going to release this to the public at this point after whatever amount of time, right? Mm-hmm. So almost always throughout history, especially when it came to World War II, Congress has always just immediately reclassified everything involved in the war in the Pacific, almost always. So when Trump was like in the battle of they stole the election from me, yada yada nonsense, whatever, Congress was in a position they had to reclassify again. Okay. The Nagasaki, Hiroshima, basically the entire Pacific theater and what happened there, and they failed to do it. They were too busy worried about, oh, you guys tried to burn my little fucking cathedral down, and like, so now we got to be all pissed, and so they didn't pay attention. So all that shit got declassified. The Japanese surrendered 3 days before the bomb dropped in Hiroshima. And the fucking president and the entire Congress knew it. And they dropped it anyway because they wanted to scare Russia. So fuck those criminals. I don't care. Yeah. None of that had to happen. We didn't save any lives. All we did was murder millions for no fucking reason.
I did not know that, and now knowing that, it would never have changed my mind about the United States government. I think they're evil as fuck. But when you're there, again, it's hard as somebody on this side of the world to even envision what that looks like.
Yeah.
But I assure you, the United States, if they dropped a bomb like that on us, we would go to war with the entire planet. We wouldn't take it the way Japan has taken it. And as an American that's been into Japan, I'm like, I feel embarrassed walking around, especially at Peace Memorial Park. I feel embarrassed. I'm like, I shouldn't be here. I'm like, when I'm there, I'm like, no, I'm Cuban. I don't know about the United States. I'm Cuban. I have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that won't work for me. What am I supposed to do?
I mean, and they, to their credit, they treat us amazingly well for what we've done to them.
We're the only nation that ever beat them at war.
I'm sorry?
We're the only nation that ever beat them at war. And so it's the honor thing of like, they surrendered to the Americans. Like, that's what happened. And it was the only time Japan had ever surrendered ever in 4,000 years or some shit.
And then
they're like, yeah, I mean, that's got to be like a weird situation. You know what I mean? But when your entire culture is built on honor and you've lost, you're like, well, fuck, okay, I guess they're the boss of me now. I think that more Japanese should realize that we nuked them for no fucking reason. I'm guessing
I don't want to start another war. Thank you very much.
That's okay. Fair point. But to your point, I have not been to Hiroshima, but I have been to Nagasaki, and I understand what you mean. That feeling that you get in that place in that moment. But I've also been to Chernobyl.
Ooh.
And it's a completely different feeling because one's an accident and one was intentional, right?
Right. But I mean, Chernobyl was kind of an accident too. I mean, it just happened to be really big fuck ups. Which just proves my point that, communism, socialism just doesn't work even when it works.
Right. Well, I mean, I had Mark Schneider on, and this is where I learned what actually happened at Chernobyl. And I also learned that we fucking had the exact same thing happen in America, where they killed, U.S. citizens died in that one. Not as many. I think Chernobyl killed 51 people, and in America, when our shit exploded, it was an army reactor that exploded. It killed 3 people, but they had to hunt for one for like a week apparently because he was stuck to the ceiling. They couldn't find him. Yeah.
I did not know that one. Yeah, I didn't know we had one in America, to be honest.
Yeah, Mark Schneider, episode 1. Check it out. The Green Nuclear Future. You watch it, it's like an hour. But that's basically what we talk about is accidents and stuff, the safety side of nuclear. But
it's my understanding, it's pretty safe.
It's extraordinarily safe now. Yeah. A lot of people go back to 3 Mile Island and they say, oh, it was so dangerous. And it turns out it fucking was. Like, it's like getting an x-ray at the dentist was what happened there.
You have Turkey Point, like right here. And, I haven't grown an extra arm just yet. So it can't be that bad.
Yeah, you're not going to. You're pretty safe on it.
We have a really old reactor, which is the part that is scary, that, we have so much technology, but FPL that owns the Florida Power and Light Company that owns Turkey Point, they, I believe, aren't able to upgrade to newer systems, or it's so incredibly expensive and the, bureaucracy for it. So that's kind of the worrisome part, is the part where the United States government puts all these regulations, puts all these burdens on these companies, so they can't improve the infrastructure. I mean,
well, yeah, especially when now they want to do all this nonsense with we got to go green, and I'm like, but we fucking have the tech, morons. Like I don't know, whatever.
I'm in Florida. We've got sunny days every day. You can put solar panels everywhere. It's just never going to be enough.
One of the things Mark has told me, Mark is a nuclear operator in Virginia. Prior to that, 20 years in the U.S. Navy, he was a nuclear operator on submarines and aircraft carriers. I like to make the joke the only thing he's ever been on more than a submarine was his wife, and that's why he has 6 kids.
Ooh.
I make the joke to him. live on air, and he gets like, he laughs about it.
I mean, I have 4 kids, so you can kind of that I'll leave that one there.
One of the things that Mark told me is that Miami, Florida is the only place in America that solar works.
Right. Because
he's like, it doesn't work anywhere else.
No.
It's only Miami. It's the only place that it works.
And it doesn't even work here because solar panels are incredibly expensive. And then,
right.
Of course, you can rely on government to screw it over. So I looked up, I got a quote for a solar panel from the electric company. And not only was it like $80,000 to replace, and get me enough power for my house. I have a lot of people living in my house. But not only was it like some crazy, outrageous number, but then I was like, great. So when there's a hurricane, I'll still have power, right? And they're like, no.
No.
Because you can't disconnect from the actual solar, like you can't disconnect from the power grid because, well, we lobbied enough people in government. So now you can't disconnect. You can't actually be off grid. So when a hurricane comes and we knock off the power so that we can work on it, you're still without power. I was like,
yeah.
Why?
Yeah, it's like, why the fuck would I do this?
Yeah, why? Oh, yeah, and you also sell them your electricity that you generate during the day at like 2 cents, and then you buy it back from them at 7 cents at night. Why? Why would I ever work for you guys? Oh God, I really have.
So it's a fun little game where you spend $80,000 to give them money.
Right.
Yeah. Good job. This is government for you. You're welcome.
Or I could really spend the day just pulling all the electricity that I generate, 20, and then not use any at night. But that really doesn't work. So.
Are you not allowed to have like a battery backups where you just contain all your own power?
You're allowed to have it, but I mean, I don't know that the batteries are to that level where you could.
Well, I know that now you can buy Tesla batteries. Right. Like the same batteries they put.
But the battery's like another $20,000, and then I was quoted that I needed for like the amount of power I needed for my house. I needed like 4 of these, and so I mean, I don't know. I don't think the technology is quite there yet for me to go solar.
The technology's as far as it's getting.
What do you mean?
It's not getting better. We'd have to discover a new element to make the photovoltaic panels better. So we might be able to increase battery storage, but we're done when it comes to solar. Without a new element, there's nothing. And this isn't coming from me. This is coming from fucking Elon Musk and many solar experts that have said they're as good as they're ever going to be now.
Wow. So they're definitely not getting them then.
Yeah, they're never getting
reactors at our homes. Maybe for that.
According to Mark, that's a terrible idea, and he makes a good point. Like I would try to fiddle with mine, and I would probably die. That said, though, no, I'm not. I went into the, and I suppose, I mean, you are running for office, so in a way, it makes sense that we would have this conversation. Granted, it's not at a federal level or whatever, but I think even at a local level, it matters. Is that there are a lot of people that are really heavily pushing solar and wind and things of this nature. What most people don't understand, and doesn't require very much research, is those same people that are paying the bills for those people pushing that happen to be, they own Chevron and ExxonMobil, and it's odd, obviously. But so if you were to spend the 80 grand or whatever it requires for your power need on solar panels, those solar panels have a lifespan of about 28 to 30 years.
Right.
And they have to get replaced, right? Mm-hmm. Batteries, they have a lifespan of 15 to 20 years.
Plus hurricanes come through. So
yes,
those panels aren't going to last 20 years in Florida, even if they last 20 years, because we get a major hurricane every 10 to 20 years.
Right. But nuclear is actually at this point built to literally take on a fucking Force 5 hurricane. Mm-hmm. That's, regulatory bodies have put it in place that it's got to be able to accept that kind of a hit from weather. So what are your thoughts as far as, I mean, because I feel like we shouldn't subsidize any energy at all.
I agree.
I think it should just be the wild, wild west out there, and whoever wins wins. But if we are going to be subsidizing, if you get this commissioner job, and the county's gonna subsidize something, would you prefer wind, solar, oil, natural gas? I mean, because natural gas, for instance, underground pipeline does have a better circumstance in a hurricane situation,
right,
than maybe most of the others. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I don't think I know enough about the subject to be able to make, that determination. I just think that I would probably want to talk to a whole bunch of experts before, deciding that. But I really do think that the nuclear power plant is the way to go. But again, I personally don't think government should be subsidizing anything, especially not the government. We just built Norwegian Cruise Line a $263 million cruise terminal, which that's a lot of money for a terminal. Just going to throw that out there. I don't know why they needed a $263 million terminal, but after paying that kind of money, now Norwegian's like, we might leave. So I just think that the government generally does a terrible job. We, Miami-Dade citizens, we subsidize the Miami International Airport, which is one of the biggest airports in the world in terms of how many planes land here. Why are Miami-Dade residents on the hook? It's not like we get a discount when we go to book our tickets. Oh, Miami-Dade resident who pays taxes, here's your $5 discount. We don't get anything for this. We keep getting told that, the reason that we have tourism is because we have an airport here and we have to subsidize it. Like, we're subsidizing it.
That's so that complete fucking utter nonsense, because I absolutely hate flying. If I came to Miami, I'm driving.
Yeah, well, I love flying, and my husband's an airline pilot, so I'm not going to shit on it. I'm not going to say anything bad about flying, but I don't see why we are subsidizing these things. I don't see what the net benefit to the residents are when people are struggling to pay their property tax.
These companies should be paying you as a city to they should say, we want to spend $263 million to build a port in your city. It should not go the other way.
They are the only ones that have a benefit from having a cruise terminal here that is gorgeous, because it is absolutely beautiful. They built a really nice cruise terminal. I haven't been inside of it, but from the outside, it's really nice looking. I mean, they benefited from it. And at MIA, we have, airplanes pay for the gates. They pay to land. They pay all these expenses. We have all these businesses out of MIA. Why are we subsidizing them? They can afford it. They don't need us to do it for them. And yet we do. So the point I'm trying to make is government is really bad with people's money. And my only job, if I do win the seat on the commission, is to make sure that we don't spend it and that it goes back to people's pockets. We've just recently sold the naming rights for what used to be the American Airlines Arena. One of these crypto exchanges bought it. I think it's like FX something. And they paid $63 million to name the arena for the next 10 years. Nice. And the commissioners are already talking about which district is going to get it and spend it on some port project. Why?
How about you cut a check to people?
Yeah. I mean, granted, it'd only be $2 or $3 per person, but
doesn't matter.
Let's let's give them back.
Or put it in a fucking, I don't know, put it in Dogecoin, let it grow, and then ask the people market, well, maybe not Doge, maybe whatever, put it in something, Ethereum. And then ask the people, where do you want us to spend this thing? Ethereum's great, that shit's at $4,300 right now.
I know,
fucking skyrocketing. Everything. No financial advice. I own a lot of crypto. Bite me.
Do you own crypto?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, libertarian.
Bitcoins,
people can tell me you need to invest in gold and silver and crypto. I'm like,
I did divest from Doge.
Did you?
Well, it's a fucking joke coin. It's a shit coin. It was a joke. Did you watch it
crash and burn as Elon Musk was on SNL?
No, because I had already divested. from it. It hit like 71 and I divested. We'll discuss that offline, but or offline.
Well, my 11 and 13-year-olds thought that Dogecoin was going to go higher, and so they put more money into it, and they watched live.
Don't let them sell. It's this meme's not dead. Let them get back up over where they were before.
I'm letting them do whatever they want with it because I think that this is the best lesson that they're going to learn.
Yeah. I mean, it is very good, like to let the children learn. But and now also to be fair, I told everyone when I divested that I had divested. And so I got a lot of blowback on it. It's like, oh, you don't have diamond hands. And I was like, I never said I had diamond hands. What's wrong with you?
I really like Ethereum. I'm on it for the long haul.
I like Ethereum. I hold it like I could if I released the Ethereum, I would do very well. Yeah. If I released Bitcoin, I would do fucking phenomenal right now. Obviously,
Bitcoin. I did, and then I
didn't buy Bitcoin. My friend gave it to me like 10, 12 years ago.
Oh man, I wish I had friends like yours. I didn't get any, and then I bought, and then I sold it, and I was like, I don't really quite care for it. And now, earlier this year, I was about to buy it for $3,000. I was like,
shit, you should have did it. But people can't see the future. That's the problem, right? Like if you could see the future, the game changes.
I don't know that it's necessarily going to be used anytime soon as a monetary exchange, just because it does take time and you do need to have internet. And there's a lot of issues with it in terms of a financial thing. I really, truly believe in crypto, in the blockchain for so many things. And I think that, being able to have your property on a blockchain, that it belongs to you. These are things that are going to improve the rest of the world, specifically the rest of the world, because in the United States, we do have good records, but places where who owns what is up in the air, places like Cuba, this is something that we really need to be looking into. So I firmly believe in the blockchain technology. I just don't know that I believe so much in Bitcoin. So I'm in.
I'm not looking at Bitcoin
for the sake of it, but
I'm not looking at Bitcoin as like the be all end all that a lot of people do. I actually like Ethereum more than I like Bitcoin, just because of its diversity of what it's usable for, which I appreciate. I agree with you though, because I think if we can start blockchaining property record, because that's what it is, record of property, right?
Record of property.
All these people have this property record. It's blockchained around the entire globe. And that's what's important, is because then this government, say Venezuela, can say, well, but you don't own it. And it's like, no, you're fucking wrong. Like 600 people know they own it around. It's been blocked. We know who owns what. And so you need to give them their.
When you talk specifically about Venezuela, I mean, that was one of those cases where when Chavez came into power, he just went around and like, that is mine. That is mine. Like he just went around and took things from people. And so that is a great example of why blockchain and having things, on that registry is so important, because you'd never know when some crazy politician is just going to come in and be like, that's mine, And so this takes that power away. I think we need that in the United States. They constantly just change laws on us that we personally don't get to vote on. We don't get a say in it. And I think that this technology is going to change the world. It's going to change. And I think it's going to be the next big thing. So the Industrial Revolution was probably the last one that was so big, the ability to have airplanes and get around the world quickly was a huge thing. And then now this, I really believe that this is the future, and we're going to.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not as interested in the currency side of it.
Neither am
I had Shane.
Fun.
Yeah, it is fun. And I mean, I would be honest, I've done quite well in it, because.
But you do quite well in it, and then you have to put it back into your fiat currency of, the US dollar.
Yeah,
and so you're back to square one.
You buy dirt. This is one of the things that Shane and I discussed, Shane Hazel, for those of you watching, we discussed was that, look, I mean, I'm not going to tell you that you should get crypto. I'm not going to tell you anything what you should do with your hard-earned you know, well, the proceeds of your labor, let's put it that way.
The ones that you're allowed to keep.
Yes.
The ones that the crown saw fit for you to be able to consume with, you know?
Exactly. Like, so I'm not going to tell you what you should do. What I am going to say is that I do own crypto. I do own gold and silver. I am diversified in that. I own no stocks, none.
Neither do I. Not a single
because I think it's an absolute ridiculous way to try to spend money. It doesn't make sense to me. I think it's fucking retarded. At any point, like the CEO of Ford can, like, I don't know, fucking sexually harass his secretary. And all of a sudden my shit's worth less money. It doesn't make any sense. I'm not interested.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I'm also not in stock. And therefore, I don't have a 401k. I go, I think I'm that libertarian. I'm that weird person. I have an IBC policy. I do alternative things.
Nice. I will say this though, and this is advice I would give, is buy property if you're able.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can grow food on property. And if you come to my home where I raise pigs and I raise chickens and I raise a garden, and you say, I will trade you my Bitcoin in an absolute collapse for some chicken eggs, I'm going to laugh at you and ask you for coffee beans. That's what I'm going to say now.
I agree with you on that one. I also raise chickens, or actually my son does. I don't have anything to do with the chickens. I don't like the chickens.
You like chickens? Chickens are hilarious.
They are hilarious. I'm just, they're not my cup of tea, but my son loves them.
She's all grossed out. She's like, ew. It clucked at me.
I just, I grew up on a farm. I'm over it. Been there, done that.
I grew up on a farm and I liked it. Maybe it's a guy-girl thing. I don't know.
I mean, I am in the hemp farming business now, so
that's true. You're technically a farmer.
I'm technically a farmer. I just the animal side of it, because I grew up on a cattle farm. That's what my father did. He was one of the first people, or one of the first person to take embryo transfers to Venezuela in a commercial sense. So,
nice.
Yeah, and so I grew up around animals, and my dad had killed a few cows in front of me, and it's just it's not so great.
Not your thing.
Not my thing.
I mean, that's fine. Like, that's fine. As long as you are, well, I'm not going to tell you how you should be, but I support the family farmer always. I support any of these people, and there's a lot of libertarians out there that are pushing backyard chickens. Like they're,
and they're great.
Because there's so many cities that are like, you're not allowed to have any farm animal if you live in city limits, and y'all want to see some change in shit, change that.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody should have a hen. If you can have one chicken on your property, have it. A hen is so easy if you just have one. The thing is, I'm Cuban. The stereotype is we exaggerate everything. So I couldn't just have one chicken. We have 14 freaking chickens. Like
I only have 9.
It's but you like them.
Well, I had 10, but one was like pecking eggs, so now I have 9.
Aww.
No, that's how it is. Like, you can't stop them. Once they start doing it, there's only one way to stop them. So, now I have 9. But my wife uses this term, and I think as you're a Cuban, so you'll like it. She calls it chicken math.
Chicken what?
And it's like chicken math.
Okay.
So we had 10, and I had a whack 1 because it was destroying the wares of their labor that I pay for and I want. Yes, they were not doing their slave duty, and so in chicken math, she's like, "Well, now we have to get 5 more," and I'm like, "We really don't."
Why do you need 5 more? I'm sorry, I missed that one.
It's chicken math. Apparently, if one dies, you have to get 4 to 5 to replace the one to see which one's the right one.
Oh boy!
But then you just keep them all.
If you just get a rooster, you let one of your chickens, go broody and.
No, I won't have a rooster because then you get the blood spots. Also, fun fact for anyone watching this: you do not need a rooster to get a chicken to lay an egg.
Right. So
a lot of people don't know that.
Don't understand that. So chickens lay eggs like women get their period. They get it every single day, pretty much 200 and some odd days a year. There's a few days, especially in the winter, that they don't lay, but they lay an egg pretty much every day, whether there's a rooster or not. We have 4 roosters. My son.
That's weird. I would eat all of those. But I will add this, that if you can control the temperature of the coop, the chickens will continue to lay even all the way through the winter, no matter how cold it is. If you can control the temperature of the coop. By the way, I am absolutely going to now start calling them period eggs. And you all can thank Martha. So
I said that it's like women getting their periods. We get our periods whether there's men around or not. That's the
exactly.
Point.
And so my chickens now lay period
whether there's
eggs.
A rooster or not. You know, if you want a baby, then you need a rooster. If you want her to sit on them.
So I feel like I should set up cameras in my chicken coop now and just explain to people that every day this chicken is on her period and she's just had a period egg.
Also, what a terrible
and my wife is in the comments right now going, please don't.
What a terrible life these chickens have. I have to say, like, have you seen the size of an egg compared to the size of a chicken? I'm not gonna lie. If I had a child the size that was proportionate to
they also, like, I have this one chicken that, like, for whatever reason, every 3 days lays like a double yolk, and it's like twice the size of an egg. And I'm like, you poor bastard.
I know, it is so miserable. So we, like, they lay these eggs and then we take it from them. And have you ever cracked an egg in front of the chickens? Like they know. They suffer.
No, I don't torture the chickens with their own young.
Well, so again,
I don't know what kind of business you're running. But.
Well, no, my 11-year-old, it's his chicken. So of course, an 11-year-old, he's dropped an egg or two, and they
oh yeah, I've had that happen, and they just like go and peck it because they're weird.
Chickens mine were like suffering. They were like,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, my chickens are like, feed, and I'm like, no, don't eat it.
Oh man, I don't know.
But I also feed my chickens bugs and weeds and whatever. Like, I don't care. So it's fun. Martha, this has been super fun.
And the longest podcast I think we both have ever done.
I did a podcast just the other night that was like 3.5 hours.
Really? I feel like we're going into Joe Rogan territory here.
I had Mark Schneider on. We went Joe Rogan side, but no. It's your longest, so you're welcome for that. I don't know if it is, but I hope so. We're setting records over here at Derailed. That's what we're doing. Shout out all your stuff. Let everyone know where to go, where to look for you. I've got her podcast down in the description below. I've got her Twitter down in the description below. Definitely follow her. We didn't speak Spanish because I don't. So, but her podcast is
100% in Spanish. And shout out to Kevin Hobie for putting that up there. That's one of the people that came out and was like, I'll help you. What do you need?
Hobby.
I'm sorry. My apologies. So yes, that is one of the things. It's all in Spanish. I'm sorry if you don't speak Spanish.
Learn Spanish. Don't be a tool. Learn Spanish. It's not that hard.
Learn that second language. Our goal on Libertarios Hispanos is to get the Hispanic community within the United States and outside of the United States to pay attention to the Libertarian Party. I think it's something that needs to happen. There's over 30 million voters in this country that speak Spanish that are Hispanic. And, the Libertarian Party's never gotten over 4 million votes. So if we can hit a 30 million vote jackpot, we'll move ahead a lot faster than we are currently. So, and of course, libertarianism is what Hispanics want. I mean, they just don't know they want it yet. So I'm here to tell them that they want it.
That's true. Who's your co-host on that show? You have
Mr.
a great
Zach
co-host.
Foster.
Nice.
Yes, a fellow veteran, awesome guy all around. I call him my political husband.
as long as that doesn't offend your husband, I suppose it's okay.
You know, I'm sure my husband is used to all the dumb shit I say all the time.
Well, my wife's still not used to all the dumb shit I say. We've been together for a while, so I'm just saying, who knows? Martha, this has been great. I hope you all enjoyed it. Definitely go follow her. You can learn Spanish. It's actually not as difficult as people think. It's actually pretty cheap. So,
yes,
you know, but even if you don't want to learn Spanish, share it with your Spanish friends, Spanish speaking friends, and let them tell you what got said and hope they're being honest. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. Yes, please. Please share with people who speak Spanish. That would really help us out. We are struggling to get that audience because everybody that Zach and I follow are in English.
Yeah, for sure. Stacy for Truth says gracias. So y'all have a good one. Really appreciate y'all watching. Peace.